Talk Live.
It is episode number 8 of the Free Talk Cast. I want to say thank you to Derek Slopey. That's tonight's supporter of the show. You can find that at patreon.com/LRNFM if you want to join us and, show your support for the show. I'm joined this week by Bonnie and just cut out a bunch of the intro stuff that we did in the beginning, so it's just going to awkwardly jump into that.
I'm running a little late today because I had to stop by the courthouse. I've been trying to get my driver's license updated in the state of New Hampshire to have my legal name on it.
Like before you went to prison, right?
Yes. It wasn't a priority, but it was something that was on my radar, and it is a monumental process. Just to get a New Hampshire driver's license is a process. They say that the first trip to the New Hampshire DMV is always to find out what additional documentation you need.
That actually happened to me too.
Yeah. It first happened to me about 2 years ago, and Ian told me exactly that. He was like, well, yes, that's your first trip to the DMV. Your next trip, you should actually get all this worked out. And it is insane the amount of stuff that I need. I need 2 different proofs of address, both a lease or a notarized letter and a bill. You would expect one of those to be fine.
I've always heard, felt like anything I've needed a proof of address for, it's like one thing, not 2.
I also, I believe, need my vehicle registration in order to do this. I need my birth certificate, my social security card, and the proof of name change from the Court of New Hampshire. And I had all of this, incidentally, the last time I went. However, the birth certificate I grabbed happened to belong to Michael Hampton, and whose birth certificate I did not even realize I had. But apparently, I knew I had his death certificate because I was the one who cleaned out his place. Like, I was apparently his closest friend, so I inherited all of his legal documents and stuff, and I just still apparently had his birth certificate in my file cabinet. So when I went that day and I saw in my file cabinet, I don't remember what it's labeled, something like important health records or important legal documents, something like that. And I saw the birth certificate. I just grabbed it and went. As it happened, I also only had the digital name change form because all of my name change was done online in the state of New Hampshire.
Yeah, me too.
COVID was happening at the time, so I didn't have to have a hearing or do any of that. And I believe that's still the case where you don't have to have a hearing or do any of that other nonsense.
I just thought that was, no, I didn't have to have a hearing, and I thought that was just how things are now. I hope it is, and it's not just due to COVID, and it's going to go back to, that's ridiculous that if you just want to change your name, like, because you got married or anything, that you would have to go before a judge. Like, in online, it asked reason for name change, and I just put, I am a free person.
In the state of Massachusetts, which, granted, is not the freest of the 50 states, you have to post an ad in the local paper for 3 weeks, stating your intent to change your name and asking if anyone has any objections.
Wow.
I know because a trans person from Massachusetts had to go through this, and that's crazy.
That's so crazy. Why would it matter if anybody else had an objection?
I have no idea. I imagine they would have to have a good objection, but they would put the objection in writing and it would go before the judge at this stupid hearing. In New Hampshire, though, there was no hearing. They did that, but
what is a good? I'm just stuck on this. What's a good objection? Like
he's changing his name, or this person is changing their name to my name in order to impersonate me, or
that's like the only one I can think of.
That's the only one I can think of as well. But because of that, all I had was a printable PDF proving this, and it had this seal on it that said, this thing certifies that this is as good as any physical printed document. Well, that wasn't good enough for the DMV.
What the heck?
They said this has to actually have the seal stamped on it with the raised little braille-like things and all of that. So I went to
I think they might be targeting you because I also got my name changed with the DMV.
Really?
And I got my name changed, so then I had to go to the DMV and change my license, and it was not difficult at all.
Jesus, I've had nothing but difficulty with these people. So I went to the courthouse in order to do this, and I did this a few years ago, and they printed the document and stamped it, sealed it for me right then and there. It cost me $10, and then I was on my way. That was it. End of story. Super simple. However, this time they told me, well, you have to order these things, and we'll call you in a few weeks when they're ready.
Order what things?
The actual certificate of name change that has the seal stamped on it.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, last time you guys did this when I was here, but okay, I will do that, I guess. I'm going up to Pork Fest anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, they called me during Pork Fest and told me they were ready. And I've been a little busy for the last month, so I just today got by to get them. And I went into the courthouse. All of that was fine. And the lady took $20 from me to pay $10 for each of these because I got 2 copies, so I never have to go through this again. And I was looking them over, and sure enough, it said that this person born on this date in Tupelo, Michigan, has changed their name to Aria Celeste Mezzo. And I was like, wait a minute, this says Michigan. Michigan is not correct. I was born in Tupelo, Mississippi. And the girl goes, yeah, that's crazy. Everyone knows about Tupelo, Mississippi. There's even songs about Tupelo, Mississippi, right?
I didn't know about it.
I didn't know that either, but...
No, I didn't know about Tupelo, Mississippi, but I've heard you say it.
That is where I was born, is Tupelo, Mississippi.
I'm surprised that a northerner would say everyone knows about that. Usually they're like, I know nothing about the South.
Fair
it
enough.
Doesn't exist to me. Yeah.
And it was strange because, like, I feel like over the last 4 years, if my name change document had said Tupelo, Michigan, I would have noticed.
Yeah.
So I said to the lady, well, is this a reason? All you guys had to do was reprint the document you had on file and stamp it for me. And she was like, well, yeah, it's clearly like that in our system or someone changed it. So let me go through and change it back. And then I'll get it set for you. And I was like, wait a minute. So am I going to have to wait another 2 weeks for you guys to print these? She goes, no, we'll do it right here.
Probably could have the first time then.
Yeah, you could have done this a month ago.
Yeah.
And I had to, okay, whatever. So I asked her, has it been like this the entire time or is this a recent change? And she goes, well, according to this, they just pulled the information from your case. So it's been like this the entire time. And I was like, wow, I can't believe that in 4 years, I'd never noticed this.
And you said it's written out Michigan, not just like
yes,
M-I.
It is fully spelled out Tupelo, Michigan. So I went back out to my car with the corrected documents that read Tupelo, Mississippi. And I keep pretty good records of these things. So I happen to have my name change form available on my phone. Not my form, the name change certificate, the digital one that I first received about 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And sure enough, it says on there, Tupelo, Mississippi.
That's so crazy.
And the ones I got a month ago not a month ago, I guess it was about the last time I went there to do this, because I did get one, but it wasn't stamped officially or some nonsense. It said Tupelo, Mississippi. So at some point,
recently?
Yes, within the last month, when I ordered these new documents, someone in the state of New Hampshire or at the Keene Courthouse went in and specifically changed it from Mississippi to Michigan, presumably hoping that I wouldn't notice.
And then you get to the DMV and they're like, well, this is wrong. And it just like causes you more trouble. That's obviously what happened.
And then I possibly get arrested for some sort of fraud because I've got fraudulent documents here. Like they look online and the court case says Tupelo, Mississippi, but I've got a document here that seems to be stamped and everything that says Tupelo, Michigan. Suddenly I'm looking like I counterfeited this thing. Plus the information is wrong and I look like I'm stealing the identity of Aria Mezzo.
Whenever she gave it to you, did she say, go ahead and look over it and make sure okay, yeah, just wondering.
She did tell me to go ahead and look over it. I'm assuming it wasn't, and she did correct it. And I do have the correct ones now that say Tupelo, Mississippi, but anyone else, I'd be like, man, you're being crazy. There's no way, like, that's a crazy coincidence, but someone changed this on purpose.
It seems like I wonder if this is a common tactic like government people do to mess with people they don't like.
I don't know. I don't know if it was done maliciously like that or if someone just...
But there would be no reason to go in and change it. There would be no reason to be in your file changing things at all.
No, all they had to do was go in and print it. But instead of doing that, they went in and changed the state to Michigan and then printed it. And, like, it's crazy. It didn't make any sense at all. So
and they probably, anticipated that you wouldn't look or pay attention or notice.
Yeah, I almost didn't notice. I looked over it briefly and I was like, yeah, that's fine. But as she continued cashing me out, I just kept looking it over and I was like, Michigan? There shouldn't be any references to Michigan on here. And I checked and sure enough, it says right there, Tupelo, Michigan. Like, this is crazy. And the original documents that I have didn't say Tupelo, Michigan. So absolutely crazy. Someone in the government is clearly fucking with me. And that's not just me being paranoid, guys. I am on federal probation right now. And I did just get out of federal probation. I have been raided by the FBI. these people have been watching me for a while. I did run for sheriff, and I did piss off the city. I did sue the city of Keene and Governor Sununu, neither of which went anywhere, by the way. But it wouldn't surprise me to find that I'm on the radar of some clerk somewhere who decided to fuck with me a little bit.
And you're like the only free stater I know that gets pulled over a lot. Well, with obvious indication that you're a free stater. So like I know one who refuses to put like his porcupine things on his car and stuff because he thinks it'll make him a target, and he's been pulled over like 700 times.
Oh goodness.
But I think that's because that he refuses to put porcupine stuff on his car. With you, they just know your car. I don't know if you have like Free State or Free Talk Live. Yeah, you do.
I do, and Bitcoin.com stickers. Plus, there's only one red Eclipse in New Hampshire, and I'm the one driving it with the external LEDs and the loud sound system and all of that. Like, they know when they see that car that it's me. However, I don't get pulled over that much. Since the sheriff campaign, I believe I've only been pulled over once. And that was very recent. That was just a few weeks ago, in fact. It was very late at night, and I ran a red light here in Keene, and I didn't run a red light. I turned right on red, and apparently you're not allowed to do that at this particular red light. So a state trooper pulled in behind me, and he got out of his car. And normally I'm a little bit more antagonistic toward cops, but like I am on federal probation, and the less interaction I have with cops, the better. And like this guy can make my life difficult. He'd be like, look, I pulled you over and you're on federal probation, so I'm just going to take you into custody right now just to be on the safe side. I don't know if he could have done that, but when you're on federal probation, you can't engage in the sort of antagonistic cop blocking behavior that you're inclined to do. So he was like, he came up and said that the incident was being recorded for his safety and mine. I was like, well, that's good because it's being recorded also on my end for my safety and yours, because I'm still going to record the interaction.
Yeah.
He ended up saying, did you happen to miss that big sign there that says no right on red? I was like, I guess I did miss that. You know, I'm just getting off work and blah, blah, blah.
So stupid when you can totally look and
there was no traffic at all.
You know that it's safe.
It was 2:00 in the morning.
This person has no better thing to be doing.
No. And like, if it's Keene PD behind you, you can tell because they have the bright LED headlights in the SUV. But when it's a state trooper, their taillights are a dead giveaway. But their headlights tell you nothing.
Are they like Chargers? I forget.
I think so. And they have very distinct taillights on the back. But their headlights, it could have been a Ford Escort or Ford Focus or whatever Ford vehicle. It could be anything. So I didn't think anything about it, and I didn't think anything about the sign. I've been turning right there since this location opened at this place that I work.
In the middle of the night, and there's like no one else on the road.
Keene PD has seen me doing this, and it's not an issue because like, I'm just stopping by the bank to deposit the cash from work, and then I'm going home. There's no traffic. I'm not going to hit anyone. It's like people walking across the crosswalk, even though the walk light is red. Well, hey, it's 3:00 in the morning. Yeah, I guess that's technically jaywalking, but no one cares.
Yeah.
So I did get pulled over for that. And he asked for my license and registration. I was like, actually, I don't seem to have my registration with me. I've been in federal prison for most of the last year, and and my friend renewed my registration while I was in prison, and she seems to have it because it's not in my glove box, but here's my ID, and I am on federal probation, so if you would like my probation officer's name and number, I can give you that if you want to talk to her. Because usually what I learned when I was on pretrial, when one of my friends would get pulled over and I was riding passenger, is that once I would mention that, they would just leave us alone. Because it's usually not worth it to them. And I did just get let off with a warning. I let my probation officer know because any sort of interaction like that with the police is going to flag me in her system.
Yeah, at least when Ian was on pretrial stuff, it was like part of the requirements that any interaction with a cop, he had to report.
Yeah. Because like getting pulled over, when she went to work the next day, she was going to see Aria DeMezzo stopped by a state trooper in Keene. And she'd be like, Aria didn't tell me anything about this. Aria, what happened? So I headed that off by telling her immediately while I was still pulled over. In fact, I texted her to let her know, let off with a warning, but that was the only occasion. And I tend to think it's because Keene PD knows in general, I'm not worth the bother, that I'm just going to be a hassle for them.
Yeah, what I was referencing was maybe doesn't happen anymore, but that time period at least where Keene PD was pulling you over like in the same spot on your way home from here?
They stalked me repeatedly for a very long time.
Was that here, or sorry, when you were coming home from here or coming home from work?
It was coming home from everywhere. They knew my car. It was an older Chrysler, and it was fairly distinct because no one else was driving anything, and it had the LRN stickers and all of that, and it had expired registration. And that's sort of a thing that free staters apparently do. They let their registration expire and then they just never renew it. I had every intention of renewing it, but then the vehicle started dying. And I was like, I'm not going to pay $200 to renew the registration on this vehicle that's only going to last 2 more months. So I'm just going to coast and let it go and see what happens. Well, sure enough, they tried relentlessly for a very long period of time to pull me over. One night, the state trooper did a U-turn there on Main Street in order to get behind me, and I whipped into the Cumbies parking lot, which is a convenience store, and I called Ian and made him aware. And Ian came and picked me up, and we went riding around, like staring and recording the state trooper as we drove past, just to fuck with him, because he was fucking with me. And ultimately, they did get me. They hit me with driving on expired registration. When they pulled me over, in fact, the officer said on the record, because they couldn't say, well, we've been watching you for months, and we know you're driving on expired registration. I don't know why they couldn't say that, but they couldn't. He said, well, yeah, I pulled you over because your blinker was blinking too fast.
Whoa. And I've never heard of that.
I have the cop on video saying that. And I wish I had thought about it then, but please, officer, can you tell me the regulation that specifies at what rate my blinker is permitted to blink?
Yeah.
Like, can it blink 10 times per second? Is that too many? 6 times per second?
Is that sometimes an indication that it's going to go out?
I've heard that it was.
That kind of rings a bell, but like either way, that is not pull over a bull when it's not out yet.
No, that's a follow me home, and not with your blue lights on it, but hey, I noticed by the way that your lights were blinking really fast. They're probably about to go out. You should get those replaced.
Kind person would do to like help out someone they see like with your light out, like hey, your light's out or whatever, but not what a cop would do apparently.
Instead, because my turn signal evidently was about to go out, which he only knew because I used my turn signal anyway, which not using your turn signal is also a pulloverable offense. But if I hadn't used it, I wouldn't have gotten pulled over for that, I don't think. Regardless, he pulled me over for that and ended up giving me a ticket for driving on expired registration. So he was absolutely not trying to do me a favor.
Yeah.
They called a tow truck. My vehicle was towed here to the studio because
they wouldn't let you drive it home just because it was expired?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Whenever I first moved here, my car's registration from Texas expired like the month I got here. And I drove like that for like a year and a half. But I also wonder if it's because the sticker just like is different. It's in a different spot for Texas than it is for New Hampshire. So they like didn't know how to look for that. I mean, it clearly said the date.
Yeah.
Like, and it was clearly like a year and a half before I ended up changing it. But it's not in the normal spot they'd be looking. So
I did get actually pulled over one additional time that I had forgotten about. The night that I bought the Eclipse, I was in a hurry to drive it, and the the motor vehicle records place where I get registered, it was closed at the time that I finally completed the purchase. So I just took the license plate off of my Ford Fiesta and threw it on my Eclipse for the day. I was like, this will be fine.
For one day,
Yeah, I'm not going to get pulled over. I'm just taking a registered vehicle that I own and putting its place on another one. But I got lost on the way to somewhere, so I pulled into a parking lot in order to use my phone and use Waze, the navigation app, to find the address I was looking for and navigate there. Well, it just so happened that there was a police officer parked in the exact parking lot that I pulled into. He ran my license plate.
What are the odds of that? Yeah. So terrible.
And he ended up pulling me over a few minutes later for driving with incorrect registration. He also let me off with a warning. He said, well, look, I understand, all of this, but I need you to tell me that you're test driving this vehicle and that you intend to purchase it tomorrow and register it tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I am test driving this vehicle and I intend to purchase it and register it tomorrow. He said, okay, thank you. Have a good night.
What kind of stupid ritual is that?
He's like, pick your friend up and go home and don't drive this car anymore tonight. And that was pretty much all I had to do that night anyway. So that was what ended up happening, but very strange. But I since learned it was illegal for the cop to run my registration in the first place. They have to have probable cause in order to do that in New Hampshire. They can't just see every random license plate and run the registration.
Yep, I have heard that they're not allowed to do what's it called, where they just like scan everyone that drives past.
And I was not aware of that, but that was exactly what he did. And he had no probable cause. I pulled in there in order to navigate somewhere. That's safe, responsible driving. Yeah, I could have done that while driving down the highway, as many people probably would have, but I decided to pull over and do it safely.
Well, I brought up you getting like pulled over more than me or other people in Keene, I think, just because I was making the point that I think that they do target you. So I don't think you're like crazy about this thing. And whenever I got my name changed, so I got my name changed online just like you, but then I had to go to get it changed on my driver's license so I could use that to like change my name in like my bank account. Well, when I went to the DMV, I had an appointment, I went to the DMV and got my name changed stuff done. I just remember the girl being like, yeah, and when I got my name changed and when I got married and like this is what, yeah, blah, blah, blah. And just like, it just makes me think like, I don't know. It's like, she's like, that is for a reason I approve, but like maybe they're like, you're changing it for a reason I don't approve, and like the government's just going after you, trying to make it hard.
And it could also just be that I've pissed them off enough where they're like, we're going to do every little thing we can to make your life difficult. Which, okay, fair enough, but that just makes me hate you all the more. Not hate, and I don't want to use the word hate like that, because Donald Trump recently was shot at. And a lot of people have made the joke, some of them not even joking, that they wish the shooter hadn't missed, that they wish Donald Trump had been shot and killed. Like the guy Kyle Gass, I think his name was, of Tenacious D, was on tour. Tenacious D was on tour in Australia.
It wasn't Jack Black?
No, Jack.
Who did it?
No, It was his partner, Kyle Gass, who said something to the effect of, I wish the shooter hadn't missed Donald Trump. And because of that, Kyle Gass, Tenacious D split up apparently and some other nonsense. But there's been an alarming number of people who do agree with that exact sentiment. And I don't know if Kyle Gass actually feels that way or if he actually was just joking, but those jokes are dangerous because there are people out there who actually think that way. And that's an unreal amount of evil and hatred to be carrying around in your heart, that this person could be shot at and you legitimately wish they had been hit and killed.
And I think a lot of people think that it's totally fine to say this because these people are presidents and presidents have done evil things. And LPNH, Libertarian Party of New Hampshire, their Twitter tweeted, every president deserves the death penalty anyway. And I just said, no one deserves the death penalty. Yeah. Because like someone could have directed all these murders that Donald Trump did, but I still would not be for the state killing them, or like someone else deciding to take his life at a time that it's not time for him to. No one is God and able to make that judgment.
I agree. I think we always have to leave room for forgiveness and redemption. Yeah, Donald Trump is evil. He has done some evil things, and if he becomes president again, he's going to do more evil things. Joe Biden has done evil things, and he will continue to do
He's done way more evil things because he's been in the government his entire life.
They're all evil. They all have blood on their hands. They've all probably raped innocent women who obviously did not deserve it. They probably killed, maybe not directly, but Donald Trump as president certainly caused many people to die. Barack Obama caused many people to die who otherwise would still be alive if these presidents hadn't killed them. I'm not disputing the fact that they're evil and that they do evil things. I'm just saying they can change. They could ask for forgiveness. They could realize that what they did was evil. And once they're dead, that opportunity for redemption goes away.
And the idea that this is even just like something that would make a net like good on the planet is so stupid. Like just think of like his family and how angry they'd be and what they'd go off and do in anger, you know.
And it's not just his family. Think about what some of these Republicans would do, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. And Donald Trump, one of my coworkers said it best. Shooting Donald Trump, even if you are hateful enough to want that, what do you think that is really going to accomplish? What is that going to achieve? Donald Trump is just the figurehead for all of these 150 million angry, hateful Republicans. And not all Republicans are angry and hateful, so saying 150 million is wrong. But Donald Trump is not the only Donald Trump out there. There are countless Republicans out there, some of them more powerful than others, who agree with Donald Trump on all of these little things, who are just as brash, and just as angry, and just as hell-bent on going in there and draining the swamp and January 6th and all of these other things. Getting rid of Donald Trump just puts a different person in Donald Trump's shoes. Just like Joe Biden stepping down just put Kamala Harris there, Donald Trump stepping down might have just made Donald Trump getting shot might have just made Marjorie Taylor Greene the Republican nominee.
Oh, God.
Like, we don't know how that would have played out. It certainly wouldn't have been good.
It would be so annoying if the Democrat woman running was hotter than the Republican woman running. That's just not how it usually is on the street.
And for God's sakes, you people are supposed to be Democrats. Why don't you trust the democratic process? Do
you know how many Democrats? I went and got signatures for the Libertarian Party for Chase Oliver to get on the ballot in New Hampshire. Do you know how many people? It's not that I know they're Democrats. Like, maybe they were all Republicans, but I doubted in Keene.
Yeah, you can tell.
And you can tell. Well, so do you know how many people were like, nope, because they heard it was libertarian. It's like, we were just saying to them, it's just another choice. And they're like, I know, but I cannot do that. That's not what I want to do.
100%. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, you're supposed to be the party of democracy and you want fewer choices. There was one lady who was clearly a Democrat, and I mean clearly, and she signed it and she was like, and listen, I'm not voting for him, but I wish we were like, those European countries, a lot of them have like 20 people on the ballot. I think more choices the better. And I was like, you know what, that's exactly why I'm here, because I'm not voting for Chase Oliver. I really want Democrats to vote for Chase Oliver, so I was being subversive, but
sure.
I also think that if we're gonna do this, not that I think it's the best system or anything, but if we're going to do this, having more choices couldn't possibly be a bad thing.
No, absolutely not. And it's arrogant that because I don't support this candidate, I think that you shouldn't get the option to vote for him. And that's what it ultimately comes down to when I say, no, I'm not signing your petition to help Chase Oliver because I don't want other people to be able to vote for him. What crazy arrogance do I have to have in order to think that I have the right, or it's my mandate, my God-given duty to block other people from the risk posed by the Libertarian Party candidate getting 3.2% of the vote? That's crazy.
Yeah, I still think that is not. I think it's more than he's going to get. I think he's going to get like less than 1%.
I think you're probably right too. Like 3.2%. That's a high result for
Isn't 3.2 what Trump said, or he just said 3%? Keep getting you.
I don't know.
3%.
I think the Libertarian Party peaked at like 3.2%
in
2016 when they ran Gary Johnson. And of course, I think that John McAfee or Vermin Supreme should have been the candidate.
And would have gotten more.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And would have been like so on all the media. They'd be like, look at this crazy guy. And I'm talking about McAfee. The thing is, like, Vermin is fine. McAfee is awesome, and he's the one that I wanted back then.
Yep,
and that's ultimately why I ended up voting for Trump, because I had become a libertarian, was like new to it and stuff. But I just thought Gary Johnson could possibly be a psyop, and he was like gonna take votes from Trump, and Hillary was gonna win. So I voted for Trump just simply out of like, I was like, I'm so scared of Hillary. Now at this point, I feel like it's not such a big difference. Like, now we've had Joe Biden as president for 4 years, and like the world didn't end, but war has started, and
Hillary Clinton must be absolutely irate right now, because to my knowledge, no one has been like, Joe Biden has stepped down, we should get Hillary to run.
Yeah, we love her.
Instead, it was immediately Kamala Harris. And again, this goes back to just people not trusting the democratic process. Like, you Democrats, I'm sorry to tell you this, maybe caveat emptor, but you've had your primary. You voted for Joe Biden to be your nominee.
I don't think so.
I thought the primaries had already happened. The convention hasn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the Democrats in the various states, I believe, most of them, I think there's probably still some primaries to be had. I'm not sure. But they voted for Joe Biden to be their candidate.
And I heard that there's some, I don't remember which ones, but they're not going to have one. So that we're only looking at 48 states. Some of them already chose Joe Biden. So I don't know. It's all messy, and it's kind of crazy.
Certainly none of them chose Kamala Harris.
But it would have to be her, right? Because he died.
Well, he didn't die.
Oh, wait, I forgot he didn't die. I keep being so sure that he died that I forgot he didn't actually die. Because he hasn't been seen in like 24 hours or more.
He is up there in age as well. And
yeah, and he clearly looks like he's not doing well.
Anyone who loves Joe Biden should have told him a decade ago, hey, Grandpa, it's time to retire. You know, let's live. You've got billions of dollars or whatever because you're, a lifetime politician. Let's just live out the rest of your days on this farmhouse out here with your cats and your grandkids.
And your ice cream.
Yeah, and your random neighborhood children that you sniff and they stroke your legs or whatever. Just do that and stay out of the public eye. Don't be president. But whoever finally talked him out of running for president in 2024, good for you, I guess. That needed to be done.
I don't feel like it was his choice. I really think he's dead.
He may very well be. Donald Trump would have annihilated Joe Biden. And
I think so too. That's why I'm kind of sad that that all this happened and that Joe Biden's stepping down, because I really think he would win this time. I know he got beat by Joe Biden before, but first of all, I honestly think that's fake. And it's not like I have some kind of proof. I just believe it is fake. And also, I just think that people see how bad he is, like mentally now. Yeah. So I think that they would truly not want to vote for him a second time.
That and Trump has been targeted by the political system for the last 4 years. And that's a statement of fact. He's a felon now, apparently. And a lot of people, I want to correct the record on this in as much as I can, because a lot of people seem to be very bent out of shape about, well, we can make a felon president. That's messed up. Like,
so
guys,
dumb.
First of all, I'm a felon, I want all of you people out there, all of my friends out there who keep saying these things to understand I'm also a felon. This thing you're saying where Donald Trump's a bad person now because he's a felon, that equally applies to me. When you say Donald Trump shouldn't be qualified to be president because he's a felon, well, you're saying that I shouldn't be qualified to be president because I'm a felon.
Or just that, being a felon immediately means that you're a bad person, which is so stupid.
Also incredibly true, the average American commits 3 felonies a day. The only reason you listening are not a felon is because they simply do not have the manpower to target every single person who commits a felony.
Yeah, or you're not doing enough to make yourself be a target.
Since I think January of 2022 or 2021, if you have sent someone more than $600 on Cash App or PayPal or any of these other apps and you didn't report it to the IRS, you're a felon.
Wow.
So you haven't been caught yet, and you probably won't ever be caught because they probably don't care to prosecute you for that. But the only thing keeping you from being a felon in the United States is just luck and fortune. So the fact that he's a felon means nothing to me. Plus, you can find a reason to target anyone and find them guilty for just about anything. There's so many laws in the United States that, again, the average American is committing 3 felonies a day, that if you want to find something that Donald Trump has done to prosecute him for, to make him a felon, you can absolutely do that. The same for Joe Biden, for you, for all of my coworkers at my other job, for everyone affiliated with Free Talk Live, for everyone in New Hampshire. If you wanted to find something that made them a felon, you could do it.
Unless they just don't leave their house or do anything and they're bedridden and they get taken care of by nurses, they probably have something they've done that is felonious.
Yep. So it's irrelevant that Donald Trump is a felon, and now he's faced at least 1 assassination attempt. And I'm not saying this is what happened, but I wouldn't put it past Joe Biden to know that he was going to lose to Donald Trump. So he hired a hitman to kill him.
I think that LBJ killed JFK now that I've listened to Roger Stone's book about it.
Yeah.
And it just makes so much sense that somebody who would be looking to gain the presidency would be the number 1 suspect.
Yep. Donald Trump was absolutely a threat to Joe Biden winning in 2024. He's the single biggest threat. And someone tried to have Donald Trump killed. Now, Donald Trump, as we mentioned, there's a lot of people who want him dead. And I feel like this is something we really have to work on as a people. We shouldn't be this hateful, right? If you don't want Donald Trump to become president, then don't vote for him. And I realize that rings hollow in your gut because you know how powerless you are to keep Donald Trump from being president. Your vote doesn't matter. You know that. And that's why it doesn't satisfy you to simply not vote for him. You want to do more. You want to actually do something.
I just want to know why people are this emotional about him being president. Like every single day I see posts that are like, how could you as a woman vote for Donald Trump? Or like tagging some gay or trans person, like, you know, he wants you dead, right? And it's like, what is actually going to happen if Donald Trump is president that like hurts women or gay people or trans people specifically? Like nothing happened last time.
They're caught up in the mythology of it.
Yeah,
As far as I can tell.
It's mythology.
They haven't noticed that when we went from George W. Bush to Barack Obama to Donald Trump to Joe Biden, that nothing ever actually changed in our daily lives. Everything went on exactly the same. Women weren't being mass raped and murdered in the streets. Trans people and disabled people weren't being rounded up. I remember a video being made by, Sargon of Akkad following Hillary Clinton's defeat by Donald Trump. And he pointed to all of these news articles from actual, quote, journalists who used headlines like, I'm a disabled person. Imagine what the Trump administration is going to do to me. Like, these people really thought
What the heck?
that jackbooted Nazis were going to come through the streets and take every LGBT person and disabled person and just like execute them on the spot.
I've never even heard of a disabled person being afraid of Donald Trump. Like
was a
literal
New York Times reporter who wrote that.
Whoa.
For
like
the New York Times.
actual Nazism. Like
Yeah.
That's so dumb. What has he ever said that has made you think that he's like,
Well,
I want to cull the population so that we can become like a pure-blooded nation of Aryans or something like that?
Nothing. He mocked a disabled reporter once. And that was what led to that.
Wow.
And then these liberals, these people who were terrified of him, they sat in their liberal classrooms and in their high schools and in their education centers, and they just had these circle jerks of feeding into each other's fears about how horrible things would be. And they became more and more detached from reality, telling each other these horrific bedtime stories until they forgot that those bedtime stories weren't the reality that they were actually living in. Then, of course, Donald Trump became president. None of those crazed fantasies these people imagined up as they were telling each other horror stories in the college dorms actually came to fruition. Everything continued on pretty much exactly as it has. The drug war went on just fine. The war in Iraq was ended, or at least scaled down. The war in Afghanistan was ended.
I think a really important thing to look at is what was Joe Biden doing exactly the same as Trump, and no one wants to admit that like his immigration stance got stricter.
Yep. There are still children being separated from their parents at the border. There are still border camps.
Yep.
If anything, as you pointed out, it's stricter and harsher now than it was under Donald Trump. But the news media is not talking about that, so people forget about it. But like, yeah, families are still being separated at the borders, people, and it's the Biden administration doing it. And making Trump president isn't going to change that, sadly. And that's what I want people to take away from this, is like, just look back on the last 20 years of your life and ask yourself, how has the presidential impact or the presidential election actually had an impact on your day-to-day life? And I think, and a lot of people love blaming the president for the economy. That's your number one go-to response. I already know before you've even responded, listeners out there, that that's your go-to response. Oh, well, the economy is tanking and that's Joe Biden's fault. No, this inflation began in 1913 and has been going on ever since. And like, there are graphs and historical documents and all the data that you need to prove that statement true. It did not get any worse under Joe Biden.
There aren't whole stores that can be made selling Joe Biden merch, though. I think, honestly, Donald Trump stimulates the economy. He gave life to the dying media sources. If it had been Hillary Clinton in 2020, a bunch of them probably would have died. There wouldn't be Hillary Clinton. Like, when I went to Tennessee, in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, it's like a tourist place. There was more than one Trump store just selling Trump merch.
Good Lord. I mean, that's Tennessee, so it's not surprising.
Yeah.
But give that some thought. Ask yourself how things have actually changed. And remember that the COVID inflation, that began under Donald Trump, right? The television that I purchased with my COVID check, Donald Trump gave me that.
Yeah.
And he gave me the first one before that as well.
And I can't believe he tried to lie to libertarians about that. Like, when he went to the Libertarian National Convention and spoke, he said, I gave Biden a good economy and only a few months in did it start doing bad. It's like, dude, we're the last people you need to be lying to about that, because we know that you did the CARES Act, you printed a bunch of money, and it takes some time for the inflation numbers to hit.
Yeah, the CARES Act was trillions of dollars, and that was under Donald Trump. So thank you for listening. Check us out at freetalkcast.com and all of that great stuff. And of course, follow us at Free Talk Live. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, all of those great places. So check that out. Thank you for listening. And please try not to be so hateful toward one another. Try to remember that despite all of the evil things that these people have done, they might have a change of heart. And even if they don't, learn to forgive them anyway, because you're not perfect either. And the more that we can forgive each other and love one another, maybe we can get away from this hateful mentality where we're actually wishing that other people are dead. Thanks for listening.